Ready?
Right, here we go.
Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Back for the fourth 15 minutes. So, we were going to talk about work. So we'll start at the beginning. What was your dream job as a boy?
To be an airline pilot, but I never made it.
Was that a popular dream job back in the 50s, 60s?
Yeah, everybody wanted to be an airline pilot, but I'm afraid nowadays it's not such a great job.
Yeah.
People spend more time sitting at the bottom of runways waiting to get off on a Ryanair flight that's 3 hours overdue. So, no.
What was your first job then?
Well, I always liked cooking as a kid, but the problem was, in those days there wasn't very much ingredients. Like the basic ingredients in a house in Belfast in the 60s was jam, jelly, or there was no fresh cream. There was not at all. There was no cheese. You might have made a nice omelette if there was plenty of eggs, and you could have put a cheese into it.
Did you have a non-stick Teflon frying pan?
Oh, absolutely. There was one. I'll tell you this: what the frying pan was.
Yeah.
The frying pan was a big black steel pan, and they put dripping into it. Dripping was solid white fat.
Oh God!
And it was put into the pan, and everything was fried in that. The sausages were fried, the bacon was fried, the egg was fried, everything was
over a flame or
over a gas cooker.
So that's
and then
flame, yeah.
when you took everything out, you put the pan aside, and the same fat stayed in it till the next person came along and fried in it. But you had to eat the sausages and the rashers very fast because the fat coagulated.
Oh good God!
And there was a thing when there was nothing else left, you had a thing called dip. DIP,
I remember this. Yeah,
and you fried bread in the fat, and you just fried bread, and then you put salt on top of it. But you had to eat that quick too, because that after a while that didn't taste so hot.
You made that for a few times. It's actually really good, but
Dip.
it's not good for you.
No, so today you could make it with sunflower oil or something like that. It would be
Who
okay.
did the cooking in your house?
Oh, my mother did the cooking. My father cooked on a Saturday night, but he was a very bad-tempered man, and the sausages were always splashing. and he hadn't much patience for it. But he used to make a thing called Kilkenny stew, and it was the most foul. I can still see it. He would chop the meat up, and he would boil the meat with carrots and onions, and you could still see the fat boiling in the thing, and he'd thicken it up with Bisto gravy, and he'd say, "That's great Kilkenny stew."
Why was it called Kilkenny stew?
I don't know where he got the name from, but I tell you, I swore blind at that age. When I grew up, there were certain things I was never eating.
You hate stew, don't you?
I hate stew. I hate cabbage.
Yeah.
And I don't like parsnips. But you're going to do parsnips on Christmas Day, but I'll be very polite.
And so
my first job was working in a hotel in London, and we did a bit of everything. You were a waiter. You were 17.
How did you end up going over there?
I chucked the school bag onto the stairs in Belfast and ran off with John O'Reilly to work in a hotel in London for the summer.
Did you have a connection there, or
John had the connection? I don't know what it was. We went over in the boat and then took a bus down.
Belfast Liverpool, was it?
Hesham, it was called, the Belfast Hesham boat, and we went down in the bus to London to the Royal Kensington Hotel. And we worked in there.
What was it like being in London for the first
time?
Man, you never been there before, had you?
Not at all. I'd never been anywhere bar around the Glens of Antrim, or I'd hardly ever been to Dublin. And then you were a waiter, you were a porter, you were a scrubber, you were doing everything. And on a you didn't work on a Sunday. So on a Saturday night, there was a big bathroom up on the top of the hotel where the staff lived. Yeah. And there was about 4 baths in it. There was no sections between the baths or anything. So when you got into the bath on a Saturday night with a bar of Lifebuoy soap, and you threw your socks, your nicks, your face, everything in, and then you hung them up in a line above the bath, and that's what you did. I stayed there for 4 months, 3 months, June, July and August. Then I came back and I worked in the Ulster Hospital in Dundonald as a trainee chef, and you got 1 day off in the week to go to college to do City and Guilds exams, which I did all those, and I stayed there for 3 years, and I left there, and then I went to Craigavon Area Hospital as the head chef, and I stayed.
That's a good gig, was it?
It was, yeah.
Craigavon,
But I only stayed there for about 5 months.
That was your first job? Like first job after uni?
First job after the Ulster
college,
Hospital.
yeah.
And then I was sitting one day. It wasn't a very good job to have because it was in Craigavon. Craigavon was a very Protestant place for a Catholic lad, and then you'd drive up and down the M1 every day.
But you got a lot of abuse, did you?
Well, you wouldn't get abuse, but you'd got a lot of bigot Protestants that didn't like anybody.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'd only I hadn't a very good car.
Would you have had a bit of ingredients there?
Oh yeah, there was good stuff. Yeah, you had pretty good stuff. And I was sitting reading the paper one day, and there was this ad in the paper, and it said, "Instructor chef for St Patrick's College, Maynooth, County Kildare."
Yeah, we touched on this in a previous one. Yeah, yeah.
And I said, right, I'll have a go at that. So I wrote off.
What paper was that then?
It would have been the Sunday Independent.
And were you always on the scour?
Always on the scarf to get out of Belfast. Anything to get out of Belfast in the north.
Had you seen other people go? And you were like, I'll be on that boat as well.
Well, there wasn't many people around at that stage. John O'Reilly had left, and my brothers, I don't know where they all were at that stage. They'd gone. Jared was in the bank. Paddy was at sea school.
In the Navy. Yeah.
Paul was working in a bar. Paul was married and working in a bar. Oh, in the post office. No, Paul worked in the post office. And
Loretto.
Oh, Loretto was working in the bank in Dublin or somewhere like that. And I saw this job, so I went for I wrote off, and the next thing I got a letter back, a phone call back one day. No, a letter back to say would I come for an interview, and I said yeah, I'd come for the interview. So I drove down. Never had been in Maynooth College in my life. Didn't even know how to get there.
I think most people have never been in Maynooth College.
But that was some. But anyway,
it was a huge trip though.
Yeah, so I went down and
Where
then
is it? Kildare, Maynooth.
County Kildare, and the road to
Inchicore.
no, the road out to Kilcock.
Oh yeah.
And you know, Christy Moore's Kilcock.
Yeah,
And then I went for an interview, and a priest called O'Connor interviewed me, and a man called David Carberry. David Carberry was the manager. It was a school attached to the college, so you lived in the college, you taught the first years, and they worked in the kitchens, and it was a bit of a child labour thing. But
you only had 5 months under your belt chefing, did you?
Yeah, but I did an exam which qualified me to teach first year students. So I went for the interview, but the priest, John O'Connor, who interviewed me, said, "Now, Len, go up to the kitchen there and meet Pat O'Connor. He's the head chef, and tell him to give you your lunch." So I walked. I said, "I don't need lunch." So he said, "No, go up." So I went up, and this fella, Pat O'Connor, came out, and he said to me, Pat was a great character, and he said to me, "Who are you now?" And I said, "Name's Len Montgomery. I'm just after doing the interview for the instructor chef." "Really now? And you fancy yourself as an instructor chef?" I said, "Well, I'd give it a go." So he said, "Well, the best of luck." So about a week.
You sound very sincere.
But that was Pat. Pat was ready to roll. About a week later, I came home one day from work one day, and my mother said to me, I was living with my mother and father at the time.
And Loretto?
Oh no, Loretto wasn't there. I lived there on my own with him. And
you were what age this stage? 19, 20?
About 19.
2 years out of high school.
18,
1.5 years after London.
Yeah. No, 3 years after London. I was 16, 17, I was about 19 at this stage.
20, right, yeah.
And my mother said to me, "There's a message there. There was a phone call for you. You have to ring Father John O'Connor in Maynooth College when you get home."
But you hadn't told them you'd driven.
No, and my mother said, "Are you going to be a priest?" I says, "Yeah, I'm sure you're going to be a priest." what class of a priest would I make? Anyway, so I rang him back the next morning. He says, "Len, if you want that job, it's yours. Are you still interested?" I said, "Yeah, really." He said, "When can you come?" I said, "What about tomorrow?" He said, No, you don't have to come that quick." He said, "What about Friday? If you were here Friday week, we could do a bit of a course over the weekend, just to, how you would deal with the lads and that." And
who were you teaching?
First year students, first year lads.
So
it was
dubs?
Cert. Oh no, they were from all over the country.
Were you saying like, "How's it going? Here's a knife. Here's an onion." Were you doing like the 4 French?
Well, you see, they worked in the kitchen to provide the meals for the for the clerics, and then they got a class. They might have had class in the morning, and then
so the clerics were eating the first year's dinners.
Well, there were there were second year students as well.
And like, what were you doing? Were you teaching them like the basics of culinary arts? Like,
they were slave labour. They were cooking the meals and getting a bit of an education. The dormitories and all they slept in was dreadful, but it was as it was. Anyway, John O'Connor said to me, I said, yeah, I'll be down Friday week. What? By the way, where would I stay? Well, I'll have to get somewhere to live. Yeah. Oh no, he said, you'll live in the college. I said, really? And he said, I said, how much would that cost? What would that cost me? Oh, he says, no, that's part of the deal.
Nice.
And your food and your laundry will be part of the deal as well. And I said to him, okay, that's great. I'll come. He said, do you want to know how much you're going to get paid? Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, okay. So he told me a figure.
Yeah, you can't remember it.
And I can't remember what it was. And I said to him, is that a week or is that a month? Yeah. No, he said, that's a week. And I'm on the other end of the phone going, yes.
So how did you celebrate that night in Belfast?
There was no celebrating in Belfast. You went to bed and got up the next morning. So
it was never like, okay, I'll pop out for a pint.
No, that was in 69, 70. There was no you didn't go anywhere. Anyway, so I went in the next morning to the manager of the hospital in Craigavon, a woman called Margaret Bates, and we called her Maggie, we called her Shirley as well because we thought she looked like Shirley Temple. And I said, Maggie, I've been offered a job in Dublin. Would you mind if Len, go now? I'm really worried about you. Get in, go. I said, well, what about go?
Why was she worried about you?
Because there's a lot of sectarian killings and all around that area in those days.
Were you a bit of a mouth? Were you going around?
No, I wasn't saying anything to anybody. So I said, well, what about whatever is owed to you? I'll send. Go. So anyway, I make a long story short. I arrived down at Maynooth College on the Friday morning. Long hair, Renault car, black leather jacket. Walked in. And Pat met Pat O'Connor. He says to me, so Len Montgomery, he said, you got the job. I said, yeah. He says, you're very welcome. We'll have a great time. So I said, but Pat, where do I stay? What's the story? He says, you go in there to the stores, and there's a nun in there called Sister Anne, and you have to find Sister Anne, and she'll give you your room. Do you remember this story?
Famous Sister Anne.
So I went in and I was shouting, Sister Anne, Sister Anne. And this little nun came out and she says, and who is calling my name like that? And
so
I said,
from South Dublin, was she?
Oh, I don't know where Sister Anne was from. She said to me, what do you want? I said, I'm Len Montgomery, I'm the new instructor chef, and I'm told you'll sort me out for a room. I'll sort you out for a room? I don't know that vocabulary very well. She said, follow me. So I followed her through the cloisters of Maynooth with all the pictures of the bishops and the popes and all.
It must have felt like a world away from
world away. Up the stairs, up another flight of stairs, open a door along a wooden corridor down to the end of the room. This is the main building now.
You can still see this as you say it, can't you?
And into the room. And in the room was a white bed. You're going to bed? I'll send him out soon.
That was Katie.
Where was it? White bed, a picture of the Sacred Heart over the top of the bed, a white sink, a table, and a chair. And I looked, and that's what exactly. I said, Jesus, this is like jail. Jesus, she said. You don't take the Lord's name in vain.
That was the catch, was it?
Yeah.
You were living in a rectory.
You don't take the Lord's name in vain in this house. This is the seat of the Catholic Church in Ireland.
And how long did you work in Maynooth for?
Anyway, I finished this.
Sorry.
She said, "Okay." I said, "Okay, right." I wasn't getting off on a good footing with Sister Anne, so she says to me, "Now I need your details, your full name, and for what records." And I said, "Well, it's Len Montgomery." She says, "Montgomery, oh." She said, "I have only ever met one other Montgomery in my life." And I said, "That's right, who would that be?" She said, my beloved Mother Superior, Sister Claire Montgomery. And I said, is that right? Well, I know her as the Reto.
Yeah.
And she looked at me, how would you possibly know the name of the Mother Superior? I said, because she's my aunt. What? Jesus Christ, she said, you can't stay here. I said, you're not allowed to take the Lord's name in vain. Here. And she said, get out of here, get out. So I went down and I stayed in a lovely room with carpet in Dunboyne House, where all the priests that came back to be further their edging. And the lads used to say to me, how in the name of God you get a room in here? And the rest of us got stuck up in those.
Who were the lads, the other instructors?
Tom Hester, Damien Fitzsimons, all the other lads, a couple of the other lads that lived in, not many of them lived in. So I stayed there for 3 years. And the nuns loved me.
Yeah.
And they were great. And
do you reckon she had a hand in you getting the job?
no, she didn't know I was going for the job. I rang her the day after I got it and told her.
And what did she say?
Oh, I'm delighted. She sent me a big long.
But you knew she was there.
Oh no, she wasn't there. She was in the nuns. You see, were the.
What does Mother Superior mean?
She was the head of the order
Oh, wow.
of in Ireland.
Oh Jesus, right?
Yeah, she was the and
Oh,
the head.
wow.
The house was their head house was the Sacred Heart Home in Drumcondra. And the sisters, they were known as the Daughters of Charity of the St. Vincent de Paul. They were
She was the top
French.
honcho.
They were known as the Butterfly Nuns because they wore a big headgear.
And she was the top of it. And
Yeah.
what was her relationship to you?
She was my father's sister,
Your father's sister.
and she,
Wow.
she
You should have used that. You should have used that reference. But I guess
no, I didn't need
luck was
to.
on your side.
And
So
she
what were the merits you were hired on there? Like in Maynooth, they just liked you.
just liked me, and I was good qualifications, and I knew what they asked me a whole lot of recipes and stuff, and I knew the answers to
So
them.
you'd gotten hang on, what recipe did they ask you? Do you remember?
They asked you how to make sauces. How would you make a bechamel? How would you make a velouté?
And you'd learnt all that.
Yeah.
And we are at 15 minutes, so we'll stop the talk soon. But what you call it?
The nuns loved me.
But two questions before you finish the story, right? No, one question before you finish the story, and then one after. When you were applying for the job, did it ever cross your mind to say, "Here, look,
I didn't know. I didn't know
oh,
that.
you didn't know they were connected.
No. You see, the nuns were the
because
nun.
back then they were powerful, right? The nuns.
Oh, the nuns were as powerful as the priests and the pro.
They
You see,
ran the country.
there was the finest restaurant in the world. Every Saturday night in the winter, there was a Saturday night dinner, and you had a big long menu, French food and all this. And they
So
invite.
you weren't just cooking their lunches; you were cooking.
You
their
were cooking
food.
for the pros as well, the professor, and they were gourmets. They knew their stuff.
Yeah.
They'd travelled the world, these fellas, and they knew good food. And you would do the now people that came to the Saturday night dinner were. I cooked for De Valera one time.
Oh yeah.
He was half dead,
Did
but
you spit in his food? Or?
I didn't know much about De Valera. Siobhan McKenna, Gay Byrne.
I hope you spat in Gay's food.
Come here to me, Gay. I was excited and delighted. And
So tell us the rest of how long did you work in Maynooth for?
3 years.
And then after that?
The school closed and they went to Galway. They were opening up a new school, so I didn't want to go to Galway because I was living in Skerries at the time, and they applied.
Well, you were in Skerries then?
Yeah.
So after how long did you move?
We had a
out?
house down in Churchfield.
So your parents had moved to Skerries at that stage? And
Yeah. Well, they moved to Skerries to Churchfield, and then they moved next door to number 9.
that was 3 years after you got the job in Maynooth.
Yeah.
So a lot happened around that time. So it was a good thing you got out of Belfast, otherwise you would have been there by yourself.
Yeah, and then
Right.
I left Maynooth. I had to find another job, so I saw this job advertised for an assistant catering manager in St. Edith's Hospital in Portrane.
I'll stop you there. So let's go to St. Edith's another day because it's definitely going to be too long.
Yeah.
But do you reckon your parents waited until you left and then were like, right, let's go? Or were they always talking, here, we're going to move in 5 years?
Well, my
we're gonna
father
move in
had
4
retired.
years.
My father had retired. He was working. When he came here first. He worked up as an accountant up in Drogheda.
What I mean is, like, do you reckon once you left Belfast,
It's nothing to do with me whether they moved or not. Sure.
it was only 3 years after you left.
Yeah, so they didn't care where I went.
But you lived with them in Norfolk Drive, still in Belfast, right?
Yeah, I lived for a while in Norfolk Drive,
So
and
you were
then
kind of, in a way, they sold that.
I
house.
left Norfolk Drive and never went back.
And
Never went back
did
to
you
that
ever go
house
back-
again.
Did you ever go back to Maynooth?
Oh yeah, but sure, I'm I'm a member of the Maynooth College Past Staff Association, and I have when they had a night when the school closed.
Yeah.
They had a dinner one night, a banquet, and they invited a lot of students and the instructor chefs, and I have and they presented me with a little Waterford glass. There's M&Ms in it at the moment.
M&Ms,
yeah.
So let's start. Let me just do a summary. So you were 16, 17. You went to London. You came back. You studied for 3 years, and then you got a job in the Ulster Grand Hotel. And is that what you said?
The Ulster Grand Hotel.
What was it called? The hotel you worked at?
The Royal Kensington Hotel in London.
No, the Royal Kensington Hotel. And then you where did you work in where
Belfast.
did you study?
We did a day release. They called it day release.
Where did you study?
The Rupert Stanley College of Catering in Belfast, and the College of Business Studies in Belfast.
And then what was the place you worked with lots of Protestant?
The Craigavon Area Hospital.
Craigavon.
It was a brand new hospital.
From there, you were straight to Maynooth.
Maynooth.
Right, and then from Maynooth you went to St. Edith's. Right, and all that happened when you went to St. Edith's. You were 21.
About 22, 21, 22.
And how long had your parents lived in Skerries then? Like 2 or 3 years? 1 year?
Oh, my mother. My mother and father lived in Skerries for. You see, my father's dead 40 years. I say they lived about 10 years all round in Skerries.
By that stage?
Yeah, my mother lived maybe 15 years in Skerries.
Oh yeah, in total,
yeah.
No, but I mean, by the time you had moved to Edith's, by the time you left Maynooth, how long had they lived in Skerries?
Oh, they'd only come to live in Skerries.
Just then,
yeah, just then.
Alright, last thing is, you said that when you, I want to poke at this, you said that when you were, when you told the woman in Craig Avenue Area Hospital, you were leaving, she said, "I'm worried about you, Lenny." And then you said you arrived down to Maynooth with long hair and a Renault.
Oh yeah.
So and you said, I said to you, why was she worried about you? And you said, oh, because it was a Protestant area. Did you kind of stand out? Did you look a bit like me?
No. Good God, no.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
What was it that she was worried about? And
they knew where you were. They knew by your name.
Everyone,
by your name, and they would say to you, "And what school did you go to?" And you'd say you went CBS Glen Road.
And they'd hate you.
And yeah, but it was different. There were different times, and it's not like that now. People wouldn't care anymore. Sure, like I mean, Northern Ireland in those days were Catholics and Protestants. Northern Ireland today there's more Catholics than Protestants in Northern Ireland today, but they're not necessarily Irish.
Yeah, they're Polish.
They could be Polish. They could be.
What's the worst job you've ever had? St. Edith's.
Those times St. Edith's wasn't so hot. When I went to St. Edith's first, it was rough.
Or was it the Craig Avenue Hotel?
I know I like Craig Avenue. I liked it also. I made a lot of friends at it. Lads I knew for years and years. But I lost touch with them all.
So you kind of had 4 jobs then, right? You had kind of London, Craig Avenue, Maynooth and St. Edith's.
Yeah, and then I used to work out in Emos out in the at the weekends to make a bit of extra money.
We're going to come back to all that because that's all 25 minutes.
This is your life.
Yeah.
You're like Eamon Andrews. Do you remember that?
Remember those names, Donal Hunsky and the lads.
Donal.
The lads that you were talking about in Maynooth College.
Pat O'Connor. Nicky O'Brien.
And the lads.
Damien Fitzgerald.
Yeah, those lads. I want to know what the crack was of them. Where were you having pints at the weekend? Sorry, go on. I'll talk to you later.
Alright, good luck. Over and out.